Support and resistance, two terms that a lot of individuals, especially my beginners, are trying to understand. What do these terms mean? How are traders and investors in the stock market using them? Like, how does it benefit me, right? So if you're here for that video, welcome here. My objective for you is to understand these two terms, which will allow you to find better entries for your buying opportunities for shares, right? If you're looking like, how many of you have asked the question, is now a good time to buy Apple? Is now a good time to buy XRP? Is now a good time to buy Bitcoin, right? If you know support and resistance, then you know where better to buy or where the buy zones are and where also sellers are present, maybe where to take some profits. Or if you've ever stayed in something too long, it's like, why is this tanking, right? So there may have been a resistance, okay? So those are little introductory terms for you or examples for you to understand why this is important, all right? So if you're about that, welcome to the video. My name is Dr. B. I'm a holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneurs and thought leaders, former pharmacist, undergrad in chemistry, matriculated my last 8 years in full-time entrepreneurship, primarily in the coaching and consulting space. So if you get that professor vibe or you like my teaching style, thank you so much for the positive feedback. I would appreciate your subscribe, your like, and maybe share this video out with anybody. We would truly help this channel grow from an educational standpoint, okay? There'll be resources down below if you want a little bit more support inside of our Discord. We have life coaching. We have support around your business and entrepreneurship ventures, as well as a plethora of thought leaders, speakers, consultants, coaches, real estate, all those individuals inside of our community, Leverage University. If you need one-on-one support and you want one-on-one coaching, you want a mentor or someone to guide you along one-on-one on Zoom, we do have resources with myself that you're welcome to book a call and I can guide you through that process as well. All right. All that being said, just getting that out of the way, because I know a lot of people will be watching multiple videos and you're like, man, how do I get maybe a little bit more out of this? Okay. So I'm going to keep providing the value on here. Thank you so much for the support. Let's jump into it. All puns intended. Support and resistance. Support and resistance. So the first thing is understanding the two terms. Support are where buyers are present. Resistance are where sellers are present, okay? Now, what you might see here are other terms that you might hear when investors, traders, stock market gurus are using these fancy terms, okay? So you might hear floor. It's the same thing as support. You might hear demand. It's the same thing as support. You might hear, I want to take a bounce off of here, right? You hear like, oh, I took a bounce off this area, and you're like, what bounce? What are you talking about? Right? Same thing. All they're looking at, all you need to think about is, oh, all those terms mean, okay, it's on the ground floor, bounce up. Okay, they want it to go up, right? Right? So they're looking at, in options, you might hear that a person's looking at calls, right? Pick up the phone, right? If you listen to my intro to options, right? They're looking for the stock or the futures market or whatever to go up, okay? Resistance is a ceiling, okay? It's where sellers are present. How many of you have ever had, maybe you've held a stock or maybe you bought your first stock, and the moment you got into it, some friend told you about it, it came right back down. And you're like, man, this is a gamble, right? It's not a gamble. You bought at resistance, right? You bought at the top of the market. You paid the most premium price. That is why you've heard this term before, buy low, sell high. Buy when people are in fear, buy at support, right? Let it pull all the way back. We want the market to come back so we can buy at deeper support levels, right? I want it on discount, right? I want it when everyone's fearful. Now, resistance, when it's pushing up and up and up and up and up and up, well, guess what? The buyers are about to do. They're about to take some profit. So how many of you have been late to a party, right? Everyone says the party starts at 10 and you show up at 1 a.m. Well, everyone's moved on to the next party and you're late, right? You just got rug pulled. You're the only one in there. Now you're at a loss, right? Same thing with the stock market, okay? So sellers are at resistance, okay? At the ceiling, right? You might hear reject off the ceiling as well, right? Throw the ball up, it rejects off the ceiling. So anytime you hear these terms, resistance, ceiling, supply, reject, you should be thinking that the market is coming down or it has the potential to come back down. If you hear people saying bounce, support, floor, demand, oh, I need to be thinking buying it up, right? It's coming back up. Calls, go up, options, right? So for my beginners, if some of these are still a little bit confusing, I understand. You will not fully get it until you're immersed within a community or you actually take your first trade, okay? I do live trading inside of my Discord. I'll be doing some futures live trading here on this YouTube platform. Go watch some other people's live trading videos, why it was coming down and they considered buying, right? Because it's approaching a support. Why in the world, when a stock is going all the way up, someone would take puts? It's because it's approaching a resistance, right? So, all right. Why is this also important? It's because you've heard myself, or you may have heard other people say entries and exits, okay? We could take the same potential trade, or we could get in Bitcoin the same. You own Bitcoin, I own Bitcoin. But I got in Bitcoin at 28,000. You got in Bitcoin at 100,000. Right? So do you see why the entry is so important? A lot of people got in Bitcoin when people were fearful. They got in Bitcoin at support, right? 15 to 30,000. Now everyone wants to buy Bitcoin and load up the boat at resistance at 100,000. Well, that's where people are taking their profits, right? So you buy at 100,000 and you're already down. You get my drift? So entries and exits are very important. Entries meaning when you get into a position. That means when you buy a stock, you buy an options contract, you buy a futures contract, you are entering into that position. Okay? An exit is when you are potentially taking some profit or you're exiting the position, you're selling, right? So entries and exits are so important because that's why a lot of folks struggle with this potential skill set, or they think it's a gamble, is because they dismiss the charts and they dismiss support and resistance. They just enter wherever, right? Especially within trading. Now, investing long term, if you plan to hold 10 years, just buy and hold, right? Just buy and hold. The stock market goes up over a period of time. But when you're trading, more specifically, entries and exits are very, very pivotal. I don't want to buy calls for options at resistance. I do not want to buy puts at support. Okay. Remember, put down the phone. I can make money coming down. Calls, I can make money going up. So I do not want to buy. I want to buy calls at support. I want to buy puts potentially at resistance. Okay. And I'll explain a little bit further why I say potentially. All right. So let's jump into the charts. Okay. Jump into charts, and I will do two examples. I will do a Robinhood example because I know a lot of people are just starting from a beginner standpoint and they only have Robinhood, and that's perfectly fine. Right. But as you start getting into this, I highly recommend that you start to look at an actual candlestick chart. So go watch my Robinhood legend video, which Robinhood now has a charting platform, right? So here's Robinhood. Let's use Apple for an example, okay? And I'm on a weekly chart on Apple, okay? So you see December 23rd to now December 30th at the time of this recording, 2024, okay? Do you see that Apple was pushing up and 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 up all the way up here at $259, okay? Well, Apple's never been at $259. It's at a new all-time high, okay? Well, guess what? Someone probably bought some calls or they bought Apple stock at $259. And then immediately, once they get in, it starts tumbling. Oh man, why is that? Man, it's a scam. This whole stock market is a scam. No, you just don't understand it yet, which is why we're here. this was technically a resistance. This is where people were taking their profits. They've been in Apple since 253. They've been in Apple since 245, 240. So they just rode Apple up to for $20 in a short span of time in a month. I'd want to take some profits. It's holiday time, right? So again, you've got to understand that you don't want to buy and chase when you're going up. Okay. You want it to pull back, buy low, potentially sell high. Okay. So where would I have bought calls? If I'm looking at this chart, I want you to do this with me. I'm going to work from right to left. Back on December 23rd. Well, I see right here that there was a lot of buyers. Brian, how are you seeing buyers? Because every time it tried to push down, it went right back up. Every time it tried to push down 253, right back up. 253, right back up. Okay, so there's a lot of support sitting right around 253. So I want to consider buying calls around 253, right? For trading options. Now, there it is, right? You see it going up and up and up and up and up and up. Cool. It's approaching a quote unquote resistance level. So anyone that got in their call options down here, they're looking to take profit close to 260. Okay. Now, guess what? The beauty in options trading or in trading in general is you can also make money coming down. So as everyone is getting out of there, maybe you missed the calls, right? Right? You missed the upside. You missed this big move up. Okay, well, I can maybe take puts off 260, right back down to 257. And oh, it came right back up again. Resistance. Look at there. Can't get above 260. Tank. Right back down to 253. Okay. So do you see that it's kind of, it's very deceiving for people that are newer saying, why in the world, like every time I see it going up, why is it coming back down? It's because people are taking their profits, right? You're chasing, you're late to the party. Well, Brian, what if I don't want to play puts, or what if I don't know how to play the downside? Well, you need to wait for it to come back to support. So just wait for it to come back to you, right? Come back to you. Because guess what? Now you know that anyone that's here, it's not going to go up forever. It's going to come back to you. There it is again. Look, 253. So if you were patient, you could have got into calls at 253 and rode it up to 255. That's 20 to 30% on your money for options. Okay. Came back a little bit deeper, a little bit lower support at 251. There it is again, right up to 253. Okay. So there's a simple example on what we call a line chart, which I know a lot of people use Robinhood. Okay. Now, remember, go listen to that Robinhood legend video so you can maybe switch this and get comfortable with charts on a candlestick chart, which is what I'm going to jump into now. Okay. So I use personally the Webull platform, Webull. Okay. Some of you that are listening to this that may have stumbled upon this video, you maybe use TradingView or something else. Right. I just personally like the Webull platform. Okay. So same thing applies. Where do I see buyers? I'm on let's stay on this 4-hour time frame. Okay. 4-hour time frame. Each candlestick represents 4 hours of what happens to Apple. If I just zoom out, okay, where do I see big changes of direction if I'm working from right to left? Okay. I do this with my clients as well. Oh, right here, Brian. Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right there. Do you see how it's resting on this floor? 246, 246, 246, 246, 246. Okay. Well, that is a really good support zone or support. It's a really good floor. You see how it's sitting on it, right? So buyers are buying right here, buying right here, buying right here, buying right here, buying right here. Okay. And going higher. All right. So I want you to see also where's a big change in direction if I move right to left. Like, where do you see a big change in direction? First thing I see is right here. Okay. So you might be asking, bro, Brian, I see so many other levels. Like, why those two? Is because I'm trying to answer the question, where is Apple going next? Okay. So if Apple at the time of this recording is right here at 251, well, I want to see how it reacted last time it got to 251 or below. Well, last time Apple got below this 253, remember what we marked just a minute ago was that 253 was support. Well, guess what? Here's the key. I want you to jot this down. Support can become resistance, and resistance can become support. Okay. Remember, we're building this home and we're stair stepping our way up. So sometimes the home crumbles and it's got to be rebuilt. So here's my example. You see this 246? Well, 253 used to be resistance. Well, guess what? It got above 253 and it started sitting on it, right? So that 253 now became support. Well, guess what? It broke back below this former support. So I can no longer use this as support anymore. It's below it. Look what, again, this is the beauty of the charts. You can look and see what happened last time. So all we're doing as investors or traders is reacting to the level. We're not guessing, we're reacting to the level. Okay. So if Apple, as long as Apple is below 253, the next support, where does it want to go to? Potentially down here to this 250 and 247. Okay. So I'm going to turn this back red. Oops. Because I like to turn my resistances into a red and my big supports in green. So if and when Apple pulls back to 246, what do you think I may want to do? I may want to consider buying calls in trading or consider Apple back where the buyers are. This is where big money wants to buy Apple, right? Hedge funds, big money. I want to buy where other people are buying, right? I don't want to buy in the middle of a zone or jump in randomly, right? Buyers want to be down here, or they want to get back above 253. So there's a possibility for it to get back above 253. And guess what? It wants to go right back to 260. Okay. Stocks are rotating to where they've previously been. Okay. They're rotating to where they've previously been. So if Apple can't get back above 253, guess where it wants to go? It wants to gravitate right back to this level. Well, Brian, what happens if this level breaks? Okay, cool. Well, where's the next support? Where do I see a little bit of stacking going on where there's a big change of direction right here around 242? Okay, right there. So do you see it stair steps its way down and it can stair step its way up? Okay. So these supports can break. So that's why we don't, just, which is why you see a lot of people, maybe some of you have been in signal communities or signal chats or hear signals and stuff like that. That's starting to become obsolete, which is why a lot of people are trying to educate on these public platforms, because just say someone says, take calls off of 246 and you get into a call option off 246 and it just blasts right through it and keeps going to 242. Well, that person who signaled that, I don't know who it is, just saying a person signals that, well, dang, it just keeps tanking and you're down, is because we need to see that buyers step up at that level. Okay. So again, this is a beginner video, so I want to slow down. Give me a like or a subscribe or a comment down below and say, hey, Brian, this is good. I'm getting it. I see the support. I see the support. So I can go ahead and chart where buyers are everywhere on Apple. Okay. So I can go ahead and set my alerts of where I want to buy Apple. Okay. So if I go to a weekly chart, I can see even more on Apple. Well, look at where buyers stepped up heavy on Apple, 164. There's a lot of action right here at 164. So what I like to do sometimes is draw a zone right there, right there. Oh, there's another support right here at 200. Okay. So you see the channels that are forming. Former resistance of 165 now became support. Former resistance of 200 now became support. Okay. And now we've got a resistance right here that's forming another channel, which is at 235. See that channel forming right there? And now you can see, let me get rid of these. Now you can see the big picture here. So if you set your alerts, where's the best opportunity to buy Apple again? Probably 240 to 235. Okay. 240 to 235. Well, Brian, what if it breaks all the way through 230? Okay, well, you know the best area next is about 220. There's some buyers sitting right here. Okay, I'll draw the line for my visual people. There's some buyers sitting right there. See how it's sitting on that level? Sitting, sitting, sitting. Now, let me pause for a second, and then I'll go to resistance. Some people might say, well, there's just so much going on here. Do you put it at the top of the little wick things, the lines that are coming off the candlesticks? Do you put it at the body of the candlestick, which is the big solid piece, right? I personally like to do it at the body of the candle personally, because that's where that candle closed. Okay. That's where that candle closed. So do you see here that there is a wick that comes into the bottom of a top of a body? There's a body of a candle. There's a body of a candle. So I like that 220 area for Apple as a very solid support level. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of give it a little room because it may want to tick down into maybe 219. So I'll give it just a zone personally. Okay. So there is a solid support. Same thing with a form of resistance. Okay. Now, here is the resistances. I start from where we are, and if we're at the height, I go ahead and mark the top end of resistance. Where could Apple not get through? Pretty much 260. Just could not get through 260. And you see that candle went up to 260, but it did not close above 260. The candle closed right here at, look over to my right, 255. So the price moved all the way to 260, came right back down and closed that week underneath 260. Okay. So we've got to get a solid candle close, whether it's a weekly or a daily, above 260 for it to go higher. Okay. So until then, 260 is our very solid resistance level. So what can I do? Above 260, I can take it to 265, 270. Below 260, I want to be patient and let it pull back. Okay. So there's resistance. There's really no other resistances right now because guess what? Apple is at all-time highs, right? There is never been up here. So there's no other resistances right now. Everything below is support. So Apple comes back, it could bounce off 237. It could bounce off 220. It could bounce off 200. So these are your buy zones, right? And the deeper the buy zone, the better. Okay. So what if Apple pulls all, we have some kind of market crash or something, who knows? Here's what it would look like right there. This could happen, right? This could happen. this could happen. Right? So the better the pullback, the deeper the pullback, the longer you can hold that position going up. Okay? Because this gives me more room. If I pull all the way back to 200, and that gives me $60 plus that I can take Apple back up. If I pull back to 237, I only have a little bit, and I want to be a little bit more cautious because guess what? It could blast through it and pull all the way back down here or pull all the way back down here. Okay. So support, resistance. Let's simplify it again. Support are where buyers are present. Resistance are where sellers are present. Okay. So let me give you a different chart so you can see something that's not at all-time highs and something that is a little bit, let me see. Let me go to AMD. It's a completely different chart. Okay, so AMD, if you've never heard of it, it's in the semiconductor sector. People might consider it the little brother, little sister to NVIDIA. Okay, so do you see here that AMD, I'm on again let's jump into a weekly chart. So I always want to chart as a reminder on a weekly or a daily. That's where I typically start, a weekly or a daily. Sometimes I'll do a monthly, but typically a weekly and a daily. So again, here's where AMD is now. So the first thing I typically do is I want to know where it's going. So sometimes I'll go and chart just a big resistance level that I see automatically. Okay, AMD had a big resistance at pretty much 164. That's where that big move came all the way down. Well, guess what? It's below 164 again. And look exactly what happened around this 164 area. It did it again back in October of this year. So couldn't get back above this kind of 170, 165 area and turned it into a resistance and came right back down. Okay. Well, guess what? What else do I see if I move over to my left? Any big areas of kind of change in direction? I see it right here. So I'm looking for those like peaks, okay? Peaks that are coming down of resistance. Because I'm trying to answer the question where AMD is going from here. Okay, so I'll mark that as a big resistance. All right. Well, since AMD is coming down, it's below this resistance and it's below this resistance. Well, where the heck are the buyers, right? Where is AMD going to find support? Okay, well, let me see if I see this big change in direction right here. So I'll mark that. That was a big change in direction of support right here. Pretty recent at 122. So it went from 122 upwards back to almost 180. Okay, that's pretty massive, right? That's something to really consider, right? So AMD is doing what? And let me see if there's any more, as we call it, remember, confluences. Do I see any more areas where AMD is getting bought up or action around this 120, 122 area? Well, shoot, it happened again right here. It went from 120 all the way back to all-time highs at 227. That's pretty massive. And then I also see where it turned it into a resistance right around here. So this is a pretty big confluence, meaning a lot of action. Okay. Former resistance turned into support. So guess what? This is a very, as we call it, macro support area, meaning a very big level. A lot of buyers, a lot of action happening at this level. So guess what? This is where we get excited as investors, okay? Because when there's a lot of previous information, then we get very excited because it happened once, twice, and even right here, a third time. 3 to 4 times AMD has bounced or buyers have stepped in at 120. Okay. So you got to get my drift. If you're catching on, I want to end off on this note. that this is a very good area to consider picking up some AMD shares or picking up some AMD long call options. Okay. Well, Brian, what if AMD pulls back even further? Well, I need to get another support zone ready right around here, which is pretty much at 100. Okay. Pretty much at 100. So I'm connecting the dots. I'm trying to see where buyers are stepping in. You see right here, right there, went from 103 back to 165, 103 all the way back to all-time highs. So this could happen either right here and AMD takes off, right? You're like, oh my gosh. Or it could happen right here. So it's close enough to where you can get interested in picking up some shares or picking up some long call options. What do I mean by long call options? Meaning options that are expiring in June of 2025, January, September of 2025, maybe even January of 2026, right? Because this is a big discount. AMD is almost pretty much 50% off. Okay. So just shy of 50% off. So this is where you start rubbing your hands saying, man, how does everyone catch something? How do I pay attention? Well, we go ahead and chart our buy zones. We want things to pull all the way back, especially solid companies. All right. So hopefully that helps from a beginner standpoint, support and resistance. Again, support is where buyers are. Okay. Resistance are where sellers are. Okay. So we react off those levels. It doesn't matter what we do. We could take profit at resistance. So guess what? I could ride AMD from 120 back to 160 and maybe consider some profits. Why? Because I've got to respect this, because it could come right back like that. And then try to break above the resistance and go. Okay. Happened right here. See it? Came up, came back down, came up. Well, Brian, why did it stop there? Because there was resistance that stepped in right here last time back in 2022. So people respected that level, took some profits at 130. All right. So if you want to learn more about this in real time, okay, I'll be doing some live trading on here. Keep asking questions, support and resistance. You need to, in my opinion, get a practice account, get a paper trading account with either Webull or Thinkorswim. If you need support on that, join Leverage University. Ask me here. I'll keep making videos. But the only way to do this is to get in the game. Okay, get in the game. You don't have to use your real money just yet. But if you're that person that needs a little bit of pressure, you need real money, you can deposit a small amount and you can actually enter into your first trade, or you can begin charting yourself. Find support, find resistance. Okay. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to you all. Thank you all so much. Hopefully this helps you in some capacity. I understand that it may be new. It may be seeming like a foreign language still, right? So any video you listen to on support and resistance, you will hear support, buyers, resistance, sellers. Buy at support, potentially sell, or can take profits or puts at resistance. Okay. So simple as that. Get in the game, keep staying tuned. Do not give up on this skill set. I promise you it is a game changer once you start getting it. Come into our live trading and see us actually react off these support and resistances. And I will talk to you all in the next one. Peace, love, and blessings.